RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition and Liquid Sunrays. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. This is your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions on diet, training, supplementation, IFBB pros, competitions, of course, the Indy Pro just a mere few days away. A lot going on right now. Dave, as we introduce Dave Palumbo from the RxMuscle Studios in Cape Coral, we have a big sale going on right now, speciesnutrition.com, and we just interviewed a major star embroiled in a major war of words on the bodybuilding social media scene.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's get right to the fun part. Jeremy Buendia and Antoine Vallier. Actually, Jeremy Buendia has basically been going after the entire bodybuilding community. And a lot of controversy was out there. A lot of people didn't know what was motivating him to take this aggressive tone with Antoine and the rest of the community. And quite frankly, I didn't know what it was. And we did an interview with Antoine yesterday. It went up. And Jeremy reached out to you and said, hey, when's my turn? I want people to hear my side of the story. So I was like, look, I don't care. I'll put my differences aside with him that we had. And he's willing to, offer an apology up to some of these guys. And I was like, let's do it. So we interviewed him. I thought it came off really well. I asked him tough questions. I didn't lob softballs to him, and he answered them all. So now it's up to you guys, the community, to decide, do you believe him? And, and I think you will. I think you're going to get a better understanding of who Jeremy is in this interview. And, love him or hate him, he was a 4-time Mr. Olympia champ, and he has very strong opinions, and sometimes maybe he's a little too rambunctious in his responses to people, and he even admits that. And I think it's going to be an enjoyable interview. So make sure you check it out.
And then, of course, Dave, the sale right now is speciesnutrition.com.
Yeah, I just want to tell people right off the bat, we're doing another Isolized special sale, and this time it's on chocolate. So everyone loves chocolate. If you guys want to try Species Nutrition's Isolized and you haven't had a chance, maybe you couldn't afford it, here it is, $23.99. It doesn't get much better than that. And once again, we have limited amounts. A couple people after our last sale, it sold out so quickly. I think we were sold out in like a couple hours. People said, oh, you should only limit it to one tub per person. Guys, sorry. It's first come, first serve. If you want to buy 100 tubs of it, buy 100 tubs of it. You're smart if you do that. That's what I used to do back in the day. I would buy, large amounts when I would get things on sale to save money. So the people who watch this show, who are religious, viewers of the show, and who watch all our Instagram and everything we do, know, hey, I got to keep up on top of these things, because when a sale goes up there, this stuff sells out quickly. I guarantee you by tomorrow, there will be none left. So guys, act quickly. Go over to speciesnutrition.com. And while supplies last, $23.99 for 22-serve Isolized, guys. Take advantage of it.
Let's go to the questions. We have a lot to do, a lot to get to, and not a lot of time. The first two questions, of course, from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. The first question, do you think a 58-year-old man is playing with fire doing your pre-contest PED protocol that you've laid out? I feel like if my blood work is all good, which it is, it shouldn't be much different than someone who is in their 30s. Is this correct? What do you normally do different for someone in this age bracket?
HRT is HRT, whether you started at 40 or you started at 60. I mean, it's based on what your levels are naturally. I mean, if you have low levels and they start you off on 100 milligrams per week and your levels go up to 850, which is the high normal, then you're good. If you're still low, some people are low on 100 milligrams a week. They're only at 400 or 500. And so if the doctor wants to bump it up another 50 milligrams per week, they like to bring it up into that high normal range. I think that's very safe. Usually you don't even need an aromatase inhibitor when you're at that range. Some people might need a little bit. If you watched my interview I did with Jay Campbell the other day, he would say for hormone replacement, never use an aromatase inhibitor. I think it's on an individual basis. Some people don't need it. Some people do need it. If you can get away without using it, that's great. A lot of people use my Testalized product instead because it's a more natural way to get rid of, extra estrogen. Rather than block the conversion of it, it kind of just binds up the extra estrogen, pulls it out of your body, also controls DHT levels. So I think for a 58-year-old guy, I would definitely use Testalized. I would start out with a base of 100 milligrams per week of a long-acting testosterone like cypionate and anthate. And it's up to you whether you want to use some HCG with that. A lot of people like to use it. Some people don't like to use it. Different hormone replacement clinics like the TitanMedicalCenter.com, they use HCG. That's part of their protocol. It can't hurt. It only helps. It keeps the testicles, cranking out some testosterone. Some guys like it. It makes them feel like they have a better sex drive on it. I never had a problem whether I took HCG or didn't take HCG. But once again, if it's coming with your protocol, use it. Why not? It can't hurt. Once again, there is no difference between whether you're 40, 60, or 80. As long as your levels are in the normal range, and obviously we're trying to shoot for higher normal so that you feel the best that you can feel, you're good.
Second question, again from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Now, the first part of the question might come off as a bit of a homework assignment. Second is a little bit more general. What kind of a meal should I be having before prejudging if prejudging is at 9 a.m.? And how much time before a stage? Second part, can you tell me about a sample day of eating I should follow for show day?
Yeah, I'm not going to do the sample day of eating. That is a homework assignment. But I like most of the people I work with, men and women, I give eggs and pancakes the morning of a show, unless they're not in good shape. Sometimes people come to me and they want me to work miracles in a couple weeks, and I can only get them so good. If I think they're not at their best, I'm not going to risk giving them a sloppy meal in the morning and possibly smoothing them out. So I'm going to maybe keep them a little bit cleaner. Most of my people that I've been working with over the course of several weeks, however, are in the best shape of their life. The pancakes, kind of wake their body up a little in the morning, because when you wake up that morning of your show, you're really depleted. If you've been taking diuretics, you've been water restricted, you're very flat in the morning. Pancakes, I find eggs, number one, are very easy to digest, and then the pancakes, because of the sugar, the butter in there, and it just wakes the muscles up. And I don't know if it's just because it's loading glycogen into the muscles at an accelerated rate, but I just find that when your body is really depleted, eating very clean, dry foods doesn't do anything. You need to have a little bit of moisture in your foods, and you have to have a little bit of what I would call junk, I guess, in your foods as well. I wouldn't do that for 5 meals before prejudging, but I would do that for the first meal. The second meal, I would probably eat a little cleaner, because by then your body should be ready to go. You're just maintaining blood sugar levels leading up to the show. Now, one thing I just want to mention, that these 2 questions were from the app members. Now, if you belong to the Dave Palumbo Experience app, that's my app you can download from the iTunes and Android store. It's $29 a month. You have access to all the videos I do, all the articles I've ever written. It's like a library of Dave Palumbo stuff. But you also have the ability to ask me unlimited questions. And all the questions you get asked get put in a public forum, so everyone gets to see them. And once a week, I also do a Q&A of the best questions that I get for the week, so that people who are app members get to watch another Ask Dave, essentially. It's a Q&A I do on there in video that's exclusive to the app members. Also, we just started recently doing a workout of the week. So every week you get a new workout up there for people who want some variation and some changes. I know a lot of people had asked me about that, so now we're doing that as well. So enjoy the app, tell your friends about it. Like I said, it's a great, for $29 a month, it's like you got your own coach.
Let's go to our Instagram question. Again, our handle is official_RxMuscle. Let's go to Daniel_Emil. Dave, your thoughts on vitamin K? I don't recall it being in V-mineralized. Would you recommend supplementing it additionally, given that I don't take any anticoagulants or so?
Yeah, there's two forms of vitamin K. There's K1, K2. K1 is the one that you normally think about when you talk about having enough clotting factors, as being a part of the clotting cascade. But it's the K2 that's really unique to the vitamin K. K2 helps direct calcium, well, first of all, it helps the absorption of calcium in the body, but it also helps direct calcium to the right places. A lot of people take calcium supplements like we have in V-mineralized. A lot of people take vitamin D3, which help absorption of calcium, but we want to make sure that the calcium doesn't get stored in the blood vessel walls and it goes into the bones and into the muscles for contraction and stuff like that. So vitamin K2, theoretically, at least in the research I've read, helps direct the calcium to the right channels, as well as doing about 100 other things. It's involved in 100 other chemical reactions that we're aware of. So it is a good supplement to add to your regimen. The reason I don't put it in V-mineralized is it's very expensive and it adds a lot of cost to the V-mineralized, so I don't put it in there. And not everyone needs it, because as you get older, you seem to have a higher need for the K2. So I usually just recommend that people buy it separately. I actually buy Life Extension's brand it has all the Ks in it. It's like multi-K or something like that, or super K I think it's called, or super K2 or something like that. And it has all the vitamin K versions in there, because there's K1, K2, and then of the K2 there's 2 separate isoforms of K2, and that's all in the life extension version of it. And it's not expensive in it, but it's a single type use product. Once again, I don't try to put too much into the mineralized, because I have to keep it also cost effective as well. So I put the absolute necessities that everyone needs, and then the extras like CoQ10, which people over 40 start taking. You don't really need it before that. I tell people to take that separately.
Let's go to Ancient Mason 84. Dave, two-part question again. Can you lose definition by over pumping right before a show? And then second part, which I think isn't a topic you've addressed before, what's the best way to pump up before going on stage?
Yeah, I think I stopped pumping up after my first couple shows, because that's what was happening. I was finding I was depleting glycogen out of the muscle, because guys would be out backstage pumping up for a half hour, 45 minutes, and you get sucked into that because you think you're not doing enough, you're not doing enough. Meanwhile, yeah, you get a good pump backstage, and then you get out on stage and you have nothing left in you. I found that just posing, going through the poses, the mandatories, your routine in your head, and hitting shots is enough to warm the muscles up to get the blood flow going in there without depleting glycogen. I see people doing a whole workout, and it's usually the people that are in the worst shape, because they think the more they pump up, the better they're going to look. If you're in shape and you're ready to go, you don't need to do very much. You put on your oil, you hit a couple of poses, you go out there and do your thing.
Let's go to JCTR73. What would you suggest for a natural bodybuilder to use naturally to get rid of excess water? Are there natural diuretics?
Yeah, I like natural diuretics. I used to produce one from Species Nutrition called Aqualize. Problem is that people really only use it around photo shoots and contest preps. I wasn't selling enough of it on a regular basis. I stopped selling it, but it was a good product. The best herbal diuretic that's out there is a herb called Uva ursi. You can go on Amazon.com and just Google it on there, or put it in the search engine there, and you'll come up with a million different versions. You probably could spend under $10 and buy a bottle of the stuff. It's 400 milligrams. I usually have guys do 400 milligrams with every meal the day before a show, and that seems to work really well. There are other formulas with a million different other ingredients, and you could have dandelion root, and you could have vitamin B6 in there, and even caffeine is a diuretic to a certain degree. But I think the Uva ursi is the most potent, and you don't really need any more than that, okay, if you don't really want to. So you can buy pure Uva ursi, and I'll use it with a few clients maybe who don't want to use prescription diuretics. They can't get Diazide, and it's once again, you have to take more of it, but it works. It does work, and believe me, don't start taking it every single day because you think, oh wow, look, I'm dry and everything like that. You don't want to be on diuretics all the time. When you're dehydrated, it creates a catabolic environment for the muscle. The muscle likes to be well hydrated.
Let's go to John Patty Curran. Dave, do you think, this is a thought-provoking one here, do you think improvements in camera technology might highlight flaws in modern physiques that would have been overlooked in the older days? Is the conditioning that you get to see in person these days a true reflection of what we see on camera?
I don't think it's ever the same as being there in person, and I don't know if it ever will. I don't know if we'll ever have a video camera that can capture the depth. No, maybe we will, I don't know. But I just don't think, I think you have to be there in person to really get a true idea of what's going on and what people are seeing, what the judges are seeing. Remember, the judges are voting, so it doesn't matter what it looks like on camera. Okay, it matters what the judges see from that front row or wherever they're sitting in the judging panel's pit. And that's all that matters. You know, now let's face it, with HD cameras, you can get a pretty good idea of what's going on. And if you have a good eye, you should be able to see it. But once again, some physiques just don't translate into photos and video. They just look better in person. Dorian was a perfect example of that. Dorian Yates was so ridiculously grainy hard that you couldn't get a true appreciation for him unless you were there.
I want to hold off on this one till the end. It's a really good question pertaining to you. How do I preserve muscle while cutting? I start my first diet on Monday. You have any tips for sticking to your diet? We got a lot of questions about bulking and cutting at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's a big mistake people make. They try to do both. You can't maximize muscle gains while trying to burn fat at the same time. You're trying to accomplish two things that require different, conditions at the same time. And what happens is you wind up doing nothing. You're trying to bulk up, you're training heavy, you're eating a lot of food, and then you're doing a ton of cardio and taking a million fat burners. So you're burning up all these nutrients that your body needs for recovery because you got your metabolism cranked through the roof. So you wind up going nowhere. You kind of stay kind of lean, but you never put any size on. Either put size on or diet down. Don't try to do both. Now, I have people who come to me all the time who say, Dave, look, I don't want to be on stage. I don't want to be a professional bodybuilder. I just want to look good. I'd like to put a little bit of size on, but I don't want to get fat while I'm doing that. Well, that's a reasonable goal because they're not looking to gain 30 pounds of muscle. They're looking to gain 4 or 5 pounds of muscle, and they're looking to lose, 5 to 10% body fat. That's a reasonable goal. But for most bodybuilders or people in our industry who are out there, they're looking to maximize gains, and then either that or they want to get ripped. You can't do them at the same time, and that you have to be able to separate that and create two different game plans.
Mike Grizz, 1976. What is it about Chris Bumstead's physique that, I guess, in his opinion, is more successful than Wesley Vissers? So I guess in general, if you want to compare the physiques, Bumstead and Wesley Vissers.
Well, I think Bumstead's got a more complete, better, more muscle maturity, better conditioning, better presentation, dare I say. I think he's just genetically better. I don't know if Vissers, where he'll go. I think, look, people like Vissers because he's got that Arnold-like physique. He's got a lot of the same body parts that Arnold had, a lot of the same. He executes the poses the same, obviously to take advantage of that. But I think he's still coming into his own as a bodybuilder. I think he's still building muscle. He's still getting that mature look. He looks like he just started out. The kid just happens to have great genetics. I think he's going to get better and better over the next 5 years. And I think probably, I would say in another 4 years, we'll probably see him close to his best. So hopefully he won't give up. He'll keep doing it. And I think he's got a great following. He's making money in the industry. He's doing very well over there in the Netherlands for himself. He has his own clothing company. He's starting his own supplement company. So I think he's doing it right. I just think that Bumstead is at another level right now.
Good one here from AJO. I'm not sure if we've gotten this one before. How much different do you think life would have been had you gotten your pro card in terms of your supplement company, your businesses, so on and so forth?
I don't know if it would have changed. Maybe I would have damaged my health more because maybe I would have never dropped. I might not have stopped. I might have said, well, I'm a pro now. I got to do pro shows, I don't know. I think about that sometimes, and the right answer is probably nothing would have changed. I probably would have done exactly the same thing, except I would have had a little, diploma on my card that said IFBB Pro. I don't know. You never know. I think everything happens in life the way it's supposed to. So I imagine that I think I got more street credibility for not getting my pro card than for getting the pro card.
Joey Cap, when is someone going to give training advice to individuals that love to train but have lower back issues? Every system promotes squats, deadlifts, good mornings, etc. There are plenty of people, and myself included, that possess a significant back issue that prevents them from performing the so-called primary exercises.
Well, I think that in today's world, that's not even an issue anymore because there's a machine that does everything now. You got a machine that can simulate squats. You got a machine that can simulate hack squats. You got a machine that can simulate leg press. When I say a machine, that means an apparatus that supports your body correctly and stabilizes the weight for you. So it's taking that strain off your back. There's no excuse nowadays with machines. Back in the day, Arnold's day, even the 80s, if you had a back issue, you were screwed. There really wasn't any good machines that were gonna, you had a leg press machine, and you can't do that much on a leg press machine. I never felt leg press. I did leg press occasionally. I liked the straight on leg press more than the 45 degree. I just never felt it in my legs, but I felt squats, I felt hack squats, and so even Smith machine squats. So you have to find what works for your body. That's the bottom line.
We get this question time and time regarding odd work hours. Bruno Carve, 82. I'm working night shifts 5 days a week for almost 20 years, sleeping 8 hours during the day, and he feels that it affects his muscle gains, GH production, muscle growth, etc. I'm 36 years old, 220 pounds, lean muscle, been lifting for almost 2 decades, eat 6 times a day, use gear, etc., etc. But seems like sleeping during the day and staying awake all night working affects my gains. I think if I had a day job, I would have grown better. Your thoughts?
Yeah, you got to remember all the hormonal cycles in our body work on a biorhythms. There's basically a time clock in our brain, and it's monitored by the pineal gland, which senses light, and light tells the body to release certain hormones, and darkness tells the body to release other hormones. Darkness causes the onset of melatonin release, which makes us tired. So, and it's funny, in nocturnal animals, it works the opposite, and that's why they sleep during the day and then they're awake all night, So I have to believe that testosterone and growth hormone, and I don't have to believe it, I know they are linked also to these sleep and light, the night, light and dark cycles and the sleep and wake cycles. So yeah, I have to imagine that you're probably at a disadvantage. Now, however, if you're supplementing with testosterone and growth hormone and all these other hormones, you might be overriding those negative effects to a certain degree. You can never completely correct for it, but I think to a certain degree you can. I think what you're not correcting for is your body's ability to recover properly. And once again, life happens. You got to work. You got to do a job. You make the best of it. It seems like you've been focused for all these years on getting your food in, getting your sleep, getting your rest, and getting your workouts in, and that's the best that you can do.
Let's go to Joe Murphy Flash. When getting close to a show, say 2 weeks out, what is the best way, either by medicine or over-the-counter drugs, to help sleep? And will something such as ambien hold water?
Yeah, I'm not a big ambien or Lunesta person. They have a lot of weird side effects. I think that a better way, look, I make a product called Normalized. A lot of people use this right up to the day of a show. It works great for people who are on a lot of Trenbolone, and Trenbolone really whacks you. It makes it very hard to fall asleep. The Normalized might not be strong enough, but for the majority of the people it is. 3 pills, 15 minutes before bed. You feel a little tingle, that's the GABA tingle, you go to sleep. For people who have super hard problems resting and relaxing, especially because you're starving and it's 3 weeks out from a show, a drug like Ativan or Xanax, one of the benzodiazepines, Valium, those are going to help keep you in a restful night's sleep. Obviously, less is better. You use too much, you have a hangover the next day. You use just enough. It's not a knockout pill, but it relaxes your brain, and that's what you need. The Trenbolone really revs the body up. Even just dieting in general does. So what I found, at least, was for my people, my clients, I tell them, try to find one of the benzodiazepines, like I said, Ativan, diazepam, which is Valium, or Xanax. A little bit goes a long way. Just relax the body a little bit.
Bunbeat 24, we do get this question fairly often, but again, new audience. When you weigh rice, do you measure via measuring cup or weigh in ounces?
Okay, I'm glad you asked this question. I probably should do a rant about this. Every rice box bag is different. There's minute rices, there's long cooking rices, there's long grain rice, there's basmati rice, there's white rice, there's brown rice. They all cook at different times. They all absorb different amounts of water. You have to read the box or the bag of what you're using. So if you got minute rice, read the box. It says right here, a half a cup of dry rice before cooking yields this many carbs. And that's how you figure out how many you want. So if your coach tells you have 35 grams of carbs with this meal, you read the box and you figure out how much rice you have to make and how much, given how much rice you have to take, and you know how much water you have to add to it given the instructions on the box, and you make the stuff and you eat it. It's impossible for me to give you measurements that are definitive because every rice product is a little different, a little off. It's not like a baked potato is a baked potato, you know what I mean? You can't really change a potato too much. You weigh it, it's 8 ounces, it's about 4.5 grams of carbs per ounce, and you figure out how many carbs you want. Rice is different.
Let's go to Jeff Jevnikar. Did you ever suffer from tendon pain on the forearm, right where the forearm meets the bicep? After every back day, I have a stinging, sore type of feeling there and almost hurt to even pick anything up.
Yeah.
Could this be a strain? Will icing help or just rest?
Yeah, I used to happen to me a lot. And what I realized is I try to go back and look at all my habits that I've changed recently. And what I traced it back to was I had stopped training forearms at one point because my forearms were getting pretty big. And I said, I don't need to train them anymore. Arms is really the only important thing. I don't want my forearms too big anyway. Not that they were huge anyway, but they were big. And must have created a weakness in my wrist and my forearm area, and I didn't know it. I was straining. I would pick up these dumbbells to do like heavy dumbbell presses. I'd come back with them, and all of a sudden I would get these sharp shooting, tearing feelings in this forearm muscle, and I couldn't figure out what it was. I said, could it be that I'm not training forearm? So I started going back to doing the wrist curls and reverse wrist curls, and within a week or two, all of a sudden the strain started going away, and all the pain went away, and it healed up, and I never had another problem. So the key is never create a weak link by not training a certain muscle group. Same thing with neck. If I wouldn't train neck at least once a week, on that neck machine, or you could even make your own little apparatus. What would happen is my traps were so strong and I was lifting so much weight that I kept pulling my neck out of place. But I went back to doing some neck training, and all my problems went away. So don't allow your body to create a weak link.
Let's go to our good friend Autumn Swanson, IFBB Pro. Dave's take on pre-existing hyperthyroidism before bodybuilding. What causes it? Do we induce it ourselves? Is it genetics? Also, do you think it could be normalized over time with herbal supportive supplements once treated with a compounded T3-4 combo? Can one ever go off meds and have a normal working thyroid again?
I'm assuming she meant hypothyroid, not hyper. Hyperthyroid means
hypo,
too fast.
Yeah.
Hypo meaning low thyroid. There's a certain percentage of our population that have low thyroid output. They're diagnosed hypothyroid, and that's just the way it is. And it doesn't have anything to do with whether they're bodybuilders or they've taken clenbuterol or cytomel. It's just there's a percentage of people out there that have it. Now, when your thyroid just doesn't die overnight. It slowly declines. A lot of people don't notice it, however, till they actually do a cycle of taking thyroid. They do a bodybuilding show. While they're getting ready for the bodybuilding show, they're taking cytomel, which is T3. They feel amazing on it. They lose body fat. Then they stop it and they taper off of it, and then all of a sudden they gain all this weight and they feel terrible. Now, because what's happening is now their body's realizing, hey, we were very low thyroid, we had adapted to it, but now that we put the right amount back, we felt good, and now normal doesn't feel normal because we're too low. And once again, that happens because the immune system is attacking the thyroid cells in the thyroid gland, and it's just slowly destroying them. To me, the best first line way of replacing thyroid, and you're going to do this through your endocrinologist or doctor, would be to take Synthroid or T4. Because T4 is the inactive form of thyroid hormone. And then when you put that T4 into your body will convert that to T3, which is what it needs. That's the active thyroid hormone, and you're all good. So even if you take a little too much T4, it wouldn't matter. Because it's inactive, your body only converts what it needs to the active form. That's the best way to replace it. Some people, however, don't convert the T4 to T3 adequately. And in those people, you have to dose them with T3. If you give them T3, Cytomel's the brand name of that, okay? You have to perfectly figure out the right amount. So you have to they might start you off on 25 or 30 to 37 micrograms per day. They'll keep doing blood work on you to see what the normal level is. How do they tell? Well, when T3 levels go into normal range and your TSH or your thyroid stimulating hormone comes back down to normal, then you know you're taking enough. And that's the best way to do it. But the best way to replace, if you can get away with it and it works, is taking Synthroid or T4. This way you're giving your body the raw materials, you're giving your body the inactive form, let your body turn it into what it needs.
Two more questions, but before we get to them, a lot going on right now. Again, at Species.Nutrition.com right now, 22-serve chocolate milk isolized, $23.99 while supplies last. Right now on RxMuscle.com, the live with episode, exclusive episode interview with Jeremy Buendia. Tomorrow, Kenny K.O. joins us, as well as a special hint, hint, wink, wink response video. If you know, you know. Also, Iron Rage on Friday with special guest rager, Fuad Abiyad. Jay Risotto, the old school bodybuilder philosophy was that you built muscle in the off season, and when you dieted down for contests, you reduced calories to get lean while trying to maintain or preserve as much of the mass that you gained. Now you hear all the time these pros saying, I quote, grow into the show. What exactly does that mean? If you're in a calorie restricted state, How are you putting on muscle? Is it bro science or real? Has the pharmacology and carb manipulation gotten so perfected that it is actually achievable?
What I always find is that, a lot of times guys don't do a lot of drugs, and then, they happen to get ready for like a show that's like one of the most important shows they've ever done. They maybe up their game a little bit. Maybe they never took GH before. Maybe they never used, a higher level of testosterone. Now they decide, all right, you know what? I'm doing junior nationals. I got to up my game. I'm going to go up. I'm going to start taking some GH. I'm going to up my testosterone a little bit. And all of a sudden they start gaining weight, or they're not losing weight, but they're looking better. And they don't understand it. They get this little, what I call honeymoon phase of muscle growth. I see it in women a lot too, because a lot of women don't take drugs at all during the year, and then before a show they might take a little Anavar, and all of a sudden they start getting, they can't lose weight, but they're leaning out, and it's because they're putting muscle on. The only other case I see it is there's some guys out there that are really lazy in the off season. They don't eat enough, they don't train that hard. 20 weeks before a show, it's balls to the wall. They're back in the gym, they're training hardcore, they're lifting heavy, they're eating perfectly, they're actually getting more protein now on their diet than they were getting off season because they were missing meals off season, and they start growing. I see it all the time. For the guys that are anal retentive nutcase, focused hardcore lifters off season, they don't grow into shows, okay? So growing into a show is almost like a statement that you're not doing something right in the off season, or it just happens to be, once again, that you've increased your game, so to speak, and you're taking a little bit more than you normally did, and that won't happen again. In other words, the following year, now that you're at a higher level of drug use, you're not going to get that honeymoon response anymore. So don't try to grow into a show, because it's usually unachievable. And if you try to grow into a show, which means you're eating too much food, you probably won't be losing body fat. Remember, contest prep is about preserving muscle and getting shredded. Off season is about not being a slob, but putting on as much muscle as you can. Two different goals.
Final question from our good friend Jacked and Stacked 1. Dave, I remember reading an article a while back when you went to prison, and while you were there basically coached some of the cell block you were in and put them on a keto bodybuilding diet. The article also mentioned after weeks and weeks of diet prep and training of the prisoners, you put on and judged a bodybuilding show right there in prison without any of the guards knowing about it. Any truth to this story? And if so, can you please talk about that experience, as it sounds very fascinating?
Yeah. I actually, the guards knew about it. You don't do anything without the guards knowing about it. Here's the problem. I was going home my out date I think was like a Monday, July 5th or something like that. And because it was a holiday weekend, I would have had to wait a whole other week, so they were going to let me leave that Friday before. But what they was called, it was a peel off, they called it. That was their contest. The peel off was actually scheduled for Monday, which was, I think, the 4th of July. I think I was supposed to go home Tuesday. So I think we decided we were going to do it early. We're going to do the peel off the day before I leave. Now I'm thinking, we're not allowed to do this. This is like I'm organizing something in prison. It's like you don't do that in prison, I'm thinking, they're gonna keep me here. I'm gonna blow it. I'm going home. But these guys have been training, and I've been dieting these guys, and they were like, no, we need you here. You got to be the judge, because no one is going to be fair here. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck, I can't turn my back on these guys. I didn't want to even ask the prison guards. Everyone's like, look, it'll be fine. So I'm like, all right, well, let's just do it. So at a certain time, we all had to meet out at the weightlifting pit. There was like a big canopy over it. It was outdoors, but it was a canopy, and we were going to do it in the muscle pit. And I go walk out of the dorm that I was staying in, and there's got to be the whole prison there. I'm like, oh no, this is it. We're going down. I'm like, I don't see any prison guards anywhere. There was no one around. I'm like, this is not going to be good. So I go out there, and it was like I was like the heavyweight champ walking out to the ring. There's like a million people like following me around there, and all these guys are pumping up, sweating, putting oil on and stuff like that. And I'm like, I can't believe, and it's loud, and they're all like, yeah. It was like, you would think that I was organizing a prison break. That's how loud it was. Didn't see a guard in sight. it's like everyone just turned their back and they disappeared for an hour or two, and we ran this thing, and it was great. And at the end, I didn't know this, but at the end they're like, all right, now you got to pose. You're the guest poser here. I'm like, pose? I'm like, now luckily I'm always ripped, but I wasn't ready to do any of this. I didn't know they were going to have me do it. So I had to take my shirt off, and I had to do some posing there. It was like they got a guest posing out of me as well. And everyone had a great time, and the guys who won were really good. They were shredded, most of them. I mean, for guys that were all natural there, it was as impressive as any like local show that you could possibly go to, like in the NPC. All those guys would have placed top 5 in their classes there. That's how good it was. So yeah, it was fun, you know, and I actually, these guys actually had some guys with some Polaroid cameras there because they had a photography class in the thing, and they sent me the pictures like maybe a week or two later, and I actually published them in Muscular Development in my column, the prison peel off, and I put the guys who won and their names and a little bio on them and everything like that. It was fun. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think they canceled it. After I left, I think that's it. They did away with the peel off. No more peel offs after that. but that was the highlight of my 20 weeks there. I call it my 20 weeks of contest prep. That's what I did in prison. It was 20 weeks. I treated it like a contest diet, and that's how I got through it. But it was all good. And a lot of guys came out of it. There's a couple guys, I'm not going to mention who they are, but there was a couple guys who were actually in that prison who actually compete now in the NPC at a very high level.
So 2 things. One, we got to try to dig up that article. We got to try to dig up some pictures. Mm-hmm. And I highly doubt if there's any video evidence of this.
No video.
We got to try to dig that out.
No.
Second, what movie would be the, I guess, closest equivalent to this experience? I'm thinking Longest Yard. What can you think of?
No, it was like that. What was that movie where the guy it was a boxing match? Was it Wesley Snipes had a fight?
No, I know what you're talking about.
Who did Wesley Snipes fight in that movie? He fought the heavyweight champ, right? You remember there was like the heavyweight champ in there, and Wesley Snipes had been like in prison for like 20 years or something like that, and he had to fight the champ, and no one ever found out. It was called something about.
I'm looking this up. Undisputed.
Undisputed, yeah.
Undisputed, yeah.
That's what it was like. That, if you can imagine, that's what it was like.
On that note, that's going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. Tons and tons of content right now on RxMuscle.com and the YouTube channel today, tomorrow, and Friday. And of course, the SpecieNutrition.com sale on chocolate milk isolized 22 serve, $23.95 while supplies last. For our producer Tyler Shore and Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.